Well, hello there and welcome back to the Cozy Club, my friends. We've got yet another beautiful DSA video today, and you see, over the last couple of weeks, we've started to get some more characters within the game, and as you guys know from the previous videos, they are all pretty dang insane. But the one thing we have not broken down in a video I've wanted to do for quite some time is a tier list ranking all of the summonable units within the game. You see, with Proxima and the all-expected powerful Gumbo pot that has recently been released, I thought now is the time to get every single unit in the game that can be summoned, rank them for you guys, and kind of talk about each of them and what they do, and hopefully we start to see much better units down the line, like the ones that have been coming out. Now, I know. I say tier list, and you're ready for the September official tier list that is almost ready to be released, guys. Want to make sure we've got a lot of testing to ensure that it's as accurate as possible, as so many people make some crucial decisions on it. So the good news is it should be out in a couple of days, but today's video is going to be ranking all of the summonable units within the game. And even if you don't think that is important, you definitely need to know what these do on the battlefield, as there's a lot more than you think are out there, and some are complete trash while others are game changing. All right, let's go ahead and jump into today's video. But before we do, we've got the question of the day, and we're going to be talking about character refreshes. What character in Disney Sorcerer's Arena most needs the next refresh or rework? Now, in my opinion, I think the Renaissance era of Lion King and Aladdin is grossly misrepresented in this game, and would love to see them get touched up. That is my own opinion. What is yours? Alrighty, Cozy Club. Well, once again, thank you guys so much for stopping by today's video. Let's go and jump right into the tier list. Now, how we're going to be judging these characters today is not how long they take to be summoned or, the process of that, but when they are on the battlefield, what is the biggest difference maker in a summonable unit? And we want to look what is the best of the best in the game changers as more and more are coming out. So let's begin. We're going to be having a little bit less tiers than we typically do, just because there's not as many characters or units in the game. But we're going to have an S tier for the top elite of class, the best of the best. A tier for some really strong and solid summonable units. B is going to be for those that are good, but they're kind of missing something. C is they're kind of outdated or they just don't do great. And F is they are better, probably not even to summon in the first place. Now, again, we are going to separate these from the people that summon them. Let's kick off this list by putting the card soldier in the C tier. Now, I debated it was close to F or C, but the stats aren't horrible. Decent sized health pool. It only has a basic attack, and you're not going to be relying on this thing to finish the job, and it doesn't synergize really with anything outside of maybe some villain synergy, which you could say for most of the villain summonable units. C tier, not a lot to say here. This is where it's going to end up, and I know what you're thinking. I forgot it was in the game as well. Next up is going to be Scar's Hyenas, and we got to use them in the last Summoner Showdown to give us all a refresh, and in the Showdown, they did pretty well. The major flaw of the Hyenas, though, and this is going to get them in the C tier, is their health pool. Being amongst the lowest in the game, they're like 1/4 of the health of the card soldiers. They don't have a lot of health. However, I do love that they can kind of synergize together and they all attack anything with continuous damage. A little bit of a buff to Scar could really make these a whole lot better. And when you compare them to some of the most recent released units, I definitely want them to get a stat adjustment, because if you adjust their stats, they're going to quickly become one of the best summonable units in the game. But with such a low health pool, and honestly, just about any AoE right now in the current state of the game is going to wipe them out. That gets them in the C tier without much question. The Cauldron is next, and I know, you're probably expecting maybe S or A tier. We are going to put some of the spells in here, but we're not talking about that Cauldron. We're talking about the Horn King's Cauldron. That is going to get our first stinking big fat F tier, guys. Terrible summonable units. Only has a little bit of a chance to purge helpful effects, and when it dies, it actually does a massive amount of damage to the Horn King. It's like a summoned unit that is not good. It's better not to put this out on the battlefield. If you have the Horn King, don't put this out. It's absolutely awful and is easily going to kick off and start off the F tier for us here, guys. Not worth your time using, and definitely not worth summoning. The Horn King, you're not even going to see in battle, but this just like knocks him down a peg. It's arguably one of the worst in the game. Next is the Jolly Roger Pirate that Shmi can summon, and this one's tough, I'll be honest. This is the only summonable unit in the game that can call a taunt upon itself, and it's got great buff-giving effects. The only problem are the stats aren't great, and the biggest con that, I was waiting to get fixed, it never did, was the fact that when you summon it, it doesn't get a turn right away. In fact, it takes a very long time for this to get yet another turn, and that's what makes me want to put it in the C tier, and in fact, most likely, that's the advantage. If it got an instant turn like most summons do, it would probably be an S or A tier just due to the taunt itself. But I'm going to kind of meet it halfway. It feels like it should be in C. We're going to go ahead and place this guy in the B tier. And this is where it best belongs, in my opinion. Good unit. You're not going to see it a ton, maybe in Club Conquest. It's about middle of the pack. Oh, and as a quick disclaimer, I guess, these aren't ordered within the tiers. They're just going to be overall put in each one of these tiers. Let's go ahead, and the next character we're going to talk about is the Royal Guard that Maximus summons, and this is another one that I'm pretty sure most people didn't know was in the game. The Guard from Maximus is going to end in C tier. It's actually not like terrible. It's one of the more newer summonable units. Great in the Towers of Endurance for the newer players out there, and that's why I like Maximus early on, and it's okay in Club Conquest. It can dish out a vulnerable, which is nice, but outside of that, not going to do much stat-wise. C tier is where it belongs. So we found the bottom of the totem pole. That is going to be the Cauldron. Now, let's just go right to the top. This next one is the newest summonable unit in the game, and probably the best by a good shot. I mean, it's crazy, and I never thought in my life that this would come out of my mouth, but the Gumbo pot is completely overpowered and ridiculous for a summoned unit. This thing, even on the regular tier list, would make the case for S tier. It's incredible with the taunt through protects, the undefeatable. The Gumbo pot is definitely the elite summoned unit within the game, dishing out so much healing and so much distraction. You guys can go check out my Tiana video to learn more about the Gumbo pod, but it represents the top of the class. No question, Gumbo pot's in the S tier. Next up is like the OG of summons. This was, when it came out, this was absolutely amazing, and it was able to stall battles so well. It was great within the Towers of Endurance over a year ago, but now when you use the character that summons the trolls, you're gonna not want to summon it. You're gonna want to use his other abilities instead of summoning it, guys. The trolls from Kristoff are gonna be in the F tier. I can't find a good reason to even put it above that. Outside of having a giant health pool, they just don't do a lot at all. They heal a single target a small bit. They do really no damage, and other than serving as some type of distraction that you're not even forced to go after, the trolls do very little nowadays. Perfect example of something that was amazing, and with the natural power creep in these kind of games, it's going down to the F tier, guys. The troll, bottom of the list. Now, we've got our first A tier on the list. It's gonna be Frollo's Archers. They're great. They're amazing. When they came out, they were like kind of what set the bar with these separate abilities. Really great stuff here from Frollo. Frollo can summon up to 3 of these bad boys that can hit big time damage, like shocking big time damage, whether under Shan Yu to get more speed, or if they're going to be with Ursula for more damage. These guys can pack a punch and definitely finish off some characters, providing continuous damage and a mass volley of arrows, and they can also throw some tomatoes for tenacity down. Good stats. You get all, a good bunch of them at once. They're definitely going to be A tier quality. Not quite the best of the best, but really solid overall, and definitely deserve your attention. If you're fighting them, you don't just leave them for the whole battle, because they can kind of start to hurt. Well, we might as well just round out the whole list with this next one. We're going to do a B tier, and it's going to Yokai's Tentacles, the Microbots. Now, these guys are going to get summoned in a mass of 2 or 3 as well, and they do have the major con of dying whenever Yokai dies. These other summons are going to stay on the field, but when Yokai dies, these go down as well. The saving grace is they're able to purge helpful effects and can pack a little bit of a punch and aid Yokai very well. They're awesome in Club Conquest, and in regular PvP, they're not the worst. They're kind of speedy because they've got that tech kind of faction under them. I enjoy them a lot. I think they do very well for, what they can handle. Baymax is able to trigger some taunts off them. You can get Eve to crit with them. A lot of little uses. Not quite A tier, but definitely deserving of that middle of the pack and the B tier. I love that I just said we're going to round it out by doing a B tier, and then I just got this little guy over here that I completely forgot about because he's that, not used right now. But yes, We have 2 B tiers now. Let's go on to the next one, which is going to be a spell in Bucket of Soldiers. Early game, Bucket of Soldiers is actually really strong. And when the game first came out, it was one of the best spells in the game. It ran into this kind of weird part where no one was using it outside of like trying to cheese and get beast or something like that. But I will say this, the Bucket is getting a lot better. It's getting a whole lot better, in fact, with all of these teams that call people to assist and all these basic attacks kind of being dished out nowadays. I like the Bucket of Soldiers, and I think we might start seeing it come into the meta a little bit. I don't know when that might be. I'm going to try to tool and play with it a little bit more, as I think Maurice has some cool interactions with, well, the whole tier list, but specifically with the Bucket of Soldiers. There's some neat kind of fun teams that you can build with it, and I definitely think it's got a good spot. Deals great damage, it can assist with all of your characters, and on top of that, it gets its own turn, which is pretty elite. I'm going to say definitely feel good about the B tier, but this probably has the most potential to rise out of everything we've talked about thus far. Next is a summoned unit that I give a lot of crap to. I give it a lot of grief, and it's actually not that bad. It just isn't great in comparison. It's going to be Jasmine's Aide, Raja. Now, Raja's going to end in the A tier as he does have a lot to him. He's got that nice taunt that they don't have someone that can purge. He soaks up a lot of damage. Definitely was great in this Summoner Showdown. Has defense up. Can get some great damage. He actually doesn't have terrible damage. He can aid with Jasmine and assist. Works pretty well in the Princess team overall. He just doesn't have abilities outside that basic, and that's kind of what's lacking him. But I do like the taunt that is assigned with him. He can't assign it himself like the Jolly Roger, so once it goes away, he's truly useless. But at an A tier with the overall synergy and where I kind of find him placed, we're going to pop Raja in the A tier. The Davy Jones Henchmen. We're going to pop these guys in the B tier, and these guys are kind of tough to rank because in the masses, they're really strong. They do good damage, and when you've got a strong, like maxed out Davy Jones, they can put defense down and assist and get some great things going for it. Their damage until then is not the best, and if we're just looking at it as like a single unit, like we are with the archers or anything like that, they don't do anything outside the damage and the defense down, which has me put them in the B tier. I kind of lean towards A just because of the damage they can pump out. But at this current moment, B is where they're kind of going to reign for now. Defense down is a very common harmful effect, and there are better people for the job. There are some cheeky teams you can make with the villains, and I do like them. B tier is, yeah, I feel good about B tier. Now, I want to say this. I think that the S tier should be reserved for like truly the best of the best. And these guys, they should be. You would think they would be in the S tier. I can't put them in there. I don't think that they are outshining the other ones above it. We are going to be putting Ursula's Eels in the A tier. Now, you know, when they came out, they were kind of top of class, and them feeding so much turn meter over to Ursula is really nice. They can take and purge effects, and that is what they got going for them. They're probably, if this was in order, the top of A tier. Really solid summonable units, and they can trigger Ursula and really make some great things happen. I don't know. I don't think they've scaled well enough to beat the things in S tier, but definitely the top representation of the A tier. Some very strong summonable units with Flotsam and Jetsam. We have yet another A tier, and this guy, man, this guy can pack a punch. Jolly is going to end up in the A tier. Now, his stats are kind of holding him back a little bit, but he does have a great counter chance, and he can stack his damage with helpful effects. That combined with assisting Kingdom heroes, Jolly packs a punch. I mean, check it out. I've got this one-on-one versus the Shan Yu, the destroyer of China, and Jolly doesn't care. Jolly doesn't give a dang because he's going to win the battle here. He has definitely got me out of some big jams, and I think Jolly's a great example of a balanced summon unit that I really like. You know, the passive in there is a great little bonus, and I want to see more summonable units that can assist the people that they are with. Jolly, amazing option. A tier, right up there with Raja. Towards that top of the list. Our next spell is up, and it's going to be the S tier. We've got Peter Pan's Shadow, and Peter Pan's Shadow has a big asterisk next to it, right? A, is it a summonable unit? Pretty much. It doesn't get treated that way through Maurice, which is a little bit frustrating, but it's pretty much technically a summonable unit. So we're going to go ahead and plop this in the S tier. Now, depending on who you summon with their passive or their basic attack, they're either going to be S tier, A tier, and you got some F tiers in there. But overall, if you're using it right, you got to put this in the S tier. Probably like the lowest end of S tier. but Peter Pan Shadow is able to break the game in so many ways, like Maui's taunt and just a million other examples. With the arrival of Windy and some of the other units, S tier is where it belongs. All right, we might as well just rip this band-aid right off. We're just gonna get another S tier out of the way, and you guys just watched my video on it. If you haven't, go check it out, because I kind of break down why he's so elite. I'll let the video do the talking for me. Proxima, insane. Insane damage, insane just viability altogether. Proxima, I thought was going to be, for a long time standing, the best summoned unit in the game. But, you know, Glue decided that a food product would be better for the bill. Proxima, amazing. Go check out the video to kind of hear everything I have to say. Top right hand corner above. Now, this next one is like also kind of a summon. It does count as a summon in the book for sure. It's going to be Genie's summoned shadow ally that comes with him. Whenever Genie gets a harmful effect, he's going to clone another Genie and duplicate himself. And he's going to call that Genie to assist on basic attacks. Like you saw in the Summoner Showdown, can absolutely destroy people. And I think Genie is only like a few tweaks away from being absolutely crazy good. But Genie right now, not in the craziest spot. He's great at assisting the other Genies and can kind of combine for some powerful basics. That's the only thing it has, though. Outside of that, nothing too great. That's why it's not in C, because of the damage, but it definitely is far off from A. I would put this at the end of the B tier. Genie summons, though, once you start stacking them, can quickly get to S. If you've got like 6 of them, 5, 4, even 3, you just do so much damage. We'll go ahead, put it in the B tier, and move right along. All right, now this one, I'll be honest, I had the hardest time breaking down this one. In the A tier, we've got Calhoun's Beacon. Now, this thing, in the raid, it's an S tier, let's be honest. And if we're going to count what it does within the Forbidden Depths, we'll put it in the S tier just because of the sheer amount of craziness and what it can just provide as overall raid damage. However, in a normal circumstance, it's going to be an A tier. Great taunt. It can provide plenty of help on the battlefield. Sergeant Calhoun with the new refresh and the Wreck-It Ralph crew. Very good soldier. Very good unit. Yeah, this is tough because of the raid, but A tier. Yeah, let's go with A tier. Now, as if Horn King's Cauldron wasn't bad enough, they wanted to one-up it and go with a Cauldron Born, which, if you are somehow able to keep everything alive on the field long enough, you might be lucky enough to see one of these. It's like the rarest Pokemon on the field. This guy, Cauldron Born, is F tier. It's just hot trash garbage as well. Not great stats, not good damage. It doesn't serve anything better than the Cauldron does for the Horn King. I wish that they would make this guy super, super strong. Like, that would give some viability to the Horn King. Make the Cauldron trash, that's fine. But if you're able to even get this guy, man, this guy should be like smacking people down with his bow and arrow. I don't know. This guy you see in Tower 5, that's pretty much the only place you're going to see him. Definitely is like kind of bottom of the list. The Cauldron's behind it, but you get the picture. They're all terrible. Cozy Club for our last unit that we are going to be ranking today for summonable units. This should be all of them. I think we've got them all in here. If I don't, I don't know, comment down below and I'll comment below that where I think it belongs on the list. By the way, I will put this on the Discord, but we have got ourselves the Conjuring Cauldron, another spell that counts as a summon. You guys know this, pretty easy. S tier all the way, within the raids, within PvP. Very solid magic reduction, one of the best spells in the game, and yeah, really easy S tier here. And now that you see the whole picture here, you can understand why some made it within the A tier and some within the S. You know, I think that if we were going to rearrange this, I can do this for a second and kind of put this where I think they belong. I'll do that right now. And this would be the order I put it in. You guys can see that obviously like the Gumbo Pot, Proxima, and these two spells are going to be a little bit better than Jolly and Ursula's Eels. Anything in the S and A tier, very electric for summonable units. And the direction I hope we start to see DSA go with these new units, like more and more, every character is starting to have one of these. In the past, I want to say, what, 3 releases? You had Smee, you have the Frank, and then you've got Tiana. All 3 of those with summonable units. So this is going to be the tier list determining how great these are. You guys asked for it in the comments, and I love doing videos that you guys want to see. Cozy Club, I want to thank you guys for coming to today's summon tier list. You know, we've got the full one coming, but I like doing these mini tier lists, and let me know down below. Is there a tier list that I should do next? And you guys wanted to see this one? We did it, so here we are, the best summonable units within the game. If you haven't already, guys, I am guilty of this too. Go ahead and if you watch the channel a ton, support by clicking that subscribe button. Like the video as it helps so much, and we were getting a ton of likes previously in the year. You guys have an amazing day, and until next time, stay cozy.